People are going absolutely crazy for God of War Ragnarok, which just released, and while I have not covered the God of War series on my channel, I wanted to take a moment to really appreciate what Santa Monica Studios has done with their God of War IP. And while Ragnarok can absolutely stand on its own as a testament to the quality of game development that Santa Monica Studios puts into their games, I feel that this all started and the success surrounding this series and the reinvigoration of it began with the 2018 release of God of War. I feel that what happened with this franchise is something that many companies would not consider for the IPs that they hold rights to, especially the big beloved ones. Look at Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty. But what God of War did, I think, paid off for the franchise in the long run. I think that it's not something that maybe made sense from a short-term perspective, but it has paid off very well, as I will illustrate in this video. So the first thing that I really want to get into is the fact that the previous big entry in the God of War series was God of War 3 from 2010, preceding the 2018 soft reboot. And that's exactly what the 2018 game was. It was a game that launched 8 years after the previous big entry, and it was not a direct continuation of it. Now, don't get me wrong, it still keeps the previous events of the God of War games in the continuity. God of War 2018 even makes direct references to things that happened previously, but the game never is fundamentally built on what happened previously. It is a standalone story where if you've played the previous games, you are rewarded by knowing more about the lore and catching more of the references. But on the other hand, if you have never touched God of War before the 2018 release, you are not going to be left confused, and I feel that this is a perfect way to relaunch a franchise. God of War successfully fails to exclude anybody, whether they are huge fans of the IP or just starting to dip their toes into the series, and it brings both types of fans to the same level. People who have played all the previous God of War games are unaware of what is going to happen in the Norse saga, and people who are just jumping into God of War in general are in the same boat in terms of the Norse saga. The events that preceded this game do matter, and they are relevant still. You're simply just not punished for not knowing them. I think all too often franchises go full steam ahead, try to build upon the narrative of the previous game to a large degree, and sometimes forget to work as standalone stories. Now, I'm not saying that no game should ever be a direct continuation of what came before. I think games like Assassin's Creed 2, Arkham City, BioShock Infinite, BioShock 2 for that matter, all work very well by building upon the events of the previous entries of their games. My point is simply that every now and then you should have a good jumping in point for new fans. For example, we do know that a fourth BioShock will be releasing at some point in the future, and considering that BioShock Infinite, the last entry in the series, released in 2013, I feel that now would be a good opportunity to create a story that can tie in to some degree with the previous entries, but work as a game that anyone who has not played the previous BioShock games can enjoy. Speaking of the time gap between God of War 3 and God of War 2018, I also feel that gave players a good chance to digest what happened in the previous games, and that allowed people to discover the series if they didn't know about it when the games were launching, or if they perhaps were not yet old enough or allowed to play those games when they were releasing. It allowed players to not feel overwhelmed or oversaturated with the IP, and when he made a return, it wasn't met with a groan of another one. It was instead met with cheers and applause at E3 because there was a nostalgia factor to it. People had missed this character and had requested a return from him. People were anxious to see if there was a next chapter to this character's story, and there was. And in terms of execution, Santa Monica Studios is absolutely nailing it. Both games have been essentially 10 out of 10s across the board. I'll be honest in that I was late to the party. I'm still wrapping up the first game. I got into it late just because it was a backlog game for me. I was playing other stuff when it launched back in 2018, but now I'm really enjoying my time with it. I can't wait to get into Ragnarok. And I'll just end by saying that I think that this is an approach, what they did with God of War 2018 and now by extension God of War Ragnarok. I think it's something that should be considered by other studios for other major IPs. I feel that all too often in the industry we see very rash decisions made. We see full reboots made to characters that don't necessarily need to be rebooted, or we see too many releases and an oversaturation of a popular market. Or alternatively, we see a total drought of a character that seems obsolete because sales aren't doing good because of said saturation. God of War 2018 shows how great it can be to simply give your IP a little bit of a break and then find a really solid direction to move forward in, use the nostalgia factor, be smart about how much you are saturating the market, and just have a direction. I think having an aimless goal for an IP other than just releasing more entries in the series isn't usually the best way to go. But let me know in the comments below what you think about the longevity of franchises. Do you agree with me that the Santa Monica studio direction with God of War is the right way to do it? Or do you think I'm missing something here? Please feel free to leave those thoughts in the comments below. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and we will see you guys in the next one.